everyone. My name is Israa, and I am so excited to have this conversation because I think it's so timely. I get a lot of questions about productivity and time management and how we can actually improve our productivity. So really grateful for this opportunity and very excited to share all of these things with you. And of course, if any questions do come through, I do have some time at the end scheduled. So, feel free to share your questions and then we'll go through them at the end. So I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Israa, like I said, and I am a trained clinician. So I worked as a therapist. I'm also a mental health educator. So what that means is I do workshops and speaking engagements like this. And then I also have a very micro mental health coaching practice. So, really focused on making sure that people have access to mental health information so that they can live, healthier, happier lives. If we don't get to something today, feel free to reach out to me just through my website, my Instagram, or on Twitter. It's all on the page right now. And then I'm always happy to have conversations with folks outside of my workshops. So today we're going to talk about productivity in the context of being chronically busy. So one thing that I'm noticing in my personal life, as well as in my practice and my work, is that post-pandemic, suddenly people are starting to feel really, really busy to the point where it feels overwhelming. It's causing burnout, and right now, global burnout rates are the highest they've ever been. I think all of us are feeling some kind of pressure. And what's happening is we're jam-packing our schedules. So when we talk about time management, it's really important first to reflect on what really is going on with us and where do we stand on our toxic busyness or chronic busyness or toxic productivity, whichever phrase you identify more with. It's really just about doing more than our capacity. That's really what this is about. So the first thing I want to start off today's conversation, I know it's a short one, so I'm gonna try to condense a lot of information. The first place you always want to start at when you are on any kind of healing process or healing journey is to self-reflect and really think about, what am I experiencing right now? So we want to get into a practice of being able to identify the red flags of toxic busyness. So the first one is you are working so much that it's starting to harm your health and or your personal relationships. So this can look like skipping lunch, over caffeinating yourself, skipping breakfast, not drinking enough water, not getting up in between meetings, right? You're just sitting at your chair on your computer all day for 6 hours, 7 hours, and you're really not able to take a break from that. Or you're kind of half present in your relationship. So I don't know how I got muted. The workday has ended and now you're having a hard time turning off email notifications. Your partner or your children or your friends are sitting around in front of you, or you're at dinner, but you're checking your phone constantly because you can't seem to disconnect from work. Another red flag for this is downtime makes you anxious. So if you suddenly have free time, that kind of gives you a little bit of worry. You feel restless, you kind of feel anxious, that you feel that you're not using this time properly, that you're wasting your time. Anytime you take a break, you're really not able to unplug from this desire to be busy or this desire to be productive. This one is a really big one. Our to-do lists are quite never ending, but no matter how many times you check things off, it just feels like you're constantly behind. So this is where you are overcommitting, more things are happening than your capacity allows. And this one is a really important one, which is if you feel like you are having somewhat unrealistic expectations from yourself, your schedule, your time, and your own capacity to complete tasks. So if your weekend mornings look jammed back to back, like you're waking up at 8 and you're planning something for 9:30, and then you have something planned for 1 p.m. that same day on a Saturday, and then you have evening things happening, you're kind of back to back stacking your weekends, your weeks are really busy because you're feeling like, okay, well, I can do all of these things. I don't really need any downtime. That's kind of an unrealistic expectation from yourself. And that's a really big red flag that you are in the toxic busyness cycle. And finally, you feel exhausted and worn out. And I know this is a pretty general one. This can happen because of some health reasons as well. But if you are constantly feeling exhausted and fatigued, I would always encourage you to speak to your doctor, but also reflecting on your life. If all of this stuff is happening, it is natural that you feel exhausted and you feel tired, right? Because you are in this like overworking cycle. So once you have a moment, this weekend, maybe tomorrow morning, just kind of take a few minutes to reflect on the last 2 weeks and think about how you are working, how many things you're committing to. Go back on your calendar and look at all of the things you might have, done in your workday and your personal life in the last 2 weeks to kind of see if you have any downtime. Are you taking time off? Are you resting? What do your weeks look like? And really just kind of reflect on where you stand when it comes to time management and being busy or chronically busy. So, of course, we live in a time where busyness is rewarded immensely, but there are some emotional and psychological underlying factors that push people or motivate people to be really, really busy. And that's another really important self-reflection, is that knowing what is driving you is really necessary, because that's how you're going to cater the strategies to support you, right? So the first bucket we're going to touch on, high level, is the predominant culture that we live in. So hustle culture, is very, very much rewarded in the world we live in right now. We see it all the time, right? Work hard, play harder, all of those things. And if you're in a workplace that rewards this kind of behavior, if you are around a group of friends where everyone is constantly talking about this, if you are part of, a social club or a mom group where everyone constantly talks about doing things and producing things and having a side hustle and constantly being on the hamster wheel, you're going to feel like, okay, this is something that I should be doing as well. And so therefore you're going to be motivated to overpack your schedule, right? The second section is, and again, as we go through this, I really want you to take a moment to reflect, think about the things that are relevant to you. Not everything is going to be relevant to you, but do reflect on the things that are relevant to you. And again, then it kind of informs how you're managing it over time. So perfectionism is a really big driver for toxic productivity or chronic busyness. Perfectionism really pushes us to do things to perfection, right? Like that's in the name itself. And so when we feel like we have to be the perfect student, the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect whatever you are, but pushing yourself to perfection will force you to do everything, to say yes to everything, to overcommit, right? And then the anxieties of not being able to deliver, again, like pushes us to do more and more and more. So perfectionism is a very, very powerful motivator for when it comes to chronic busyness. And so, of course, perfectionism has a lot of underlying background as to why it happens. It has to do with perhaps the way you were raised, your family culture, your actual, ethnicity, the culture around that, and what is expected from you. And so it's very, very important to take a step back and reflect on how you approach your time, and are you demanding perfection from yourself and from the other people in your life. The third bucket is guilt and shame. These are really powerful motivators for human behavior. We avoid things because we don't want to feel guilt, and we avoid things because we don't want to feel shame. And, not doing enough, not showing up to all of the after school stuff or showing up to all the PTA meetings might trigger shame for you. It might make you feel guilty that you are not being a good enough blank, right? And so that really pushes you to make yourself really, really busy. And guilt and shame often kind of are very enmeshed. And so that's why I put them together, but reflecting on which one it is that you're feeling. Like, are you feeling guilty for not doing enough? Are you feeling guilty for saying no? Perhaps you're so tired and you don't want to host like a dinner party on Saturday, but people want to come over to your place and you feel guilty, and so you say yes, but you're just worn out from the week. Like, thinking about what is really driving you is really necessary. And self-esteem is a really big motivator when it comes to why we do the things that we do. So if our productivity is connected to how we view ourselves in terms of value, and how much we value ourselves, what our self-worth is, then we're going to push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves to do more because we want to feel better about ourselves. So, if you feel like you feel really good because of your achievements that are external to you, then that's going to constantly keep you on the hamster wheel of busyness, because you've internalized this message that if I do more things, I have more value as a person, right? And so that's a really powerful connection. And all of these things are very, very deep, powerful motivators. So of course, I would really encourage you to, like I said, reflect on it, but also seek out support with a coach or a therapist if this is something that is constantly like on your mind, right? FOMO is a really interesting one. The word kind of started just in slang, but now it's actually a studied phenomenon. Social researchers have been studying FOMO as its own thing over the last 5-8 years. And the fear of missing out really, really pushes us to continue to say yes to things. And, it's social comparison. It's comparing ourselves to our peers. It's making sure that we look and feel good enough as the rest of the people around us. And it's a fear of losing opportunities, right? And so FOMO and hustle culture are pretty well connected to each other. And the final one is people pleasing. People pleasing is a very personal thing, but this is where people have a hard time saying no. So if you come, if your family culture, the way you were raised has a lot to do with how comfortable you are in saying no. But if we have a hard time saying no, we're going to say yes to a lot of things. And then we're going to become too busy to take care of ourselves and feel good about ourselves. So these are the 6 pretty major buckets as to what drives being chronically busy all the time. And like I said earlier, if you have any of these things, anything that I'm saying resonates with you, definitely take a few moments over the next couple of days, reflect on what being busy really means for you, and reflect on what does it mean for you when you're not busy? Like, how do you feel? How do you view yourself if you're not busy, right? If you are not constantly doing something, what do you say to yourself? What is the nature of those thoughts that you have? And that will help you kind of understand which of these things is really coming up for you. And then, of course, reaching out for support with a coach or a therapist or a support group is very, very beneficial. So now we're going to switch gears in the last couple of minutes to talk about, what are some practical things you can do? So these are very concrete strategies that you can use to implement to change some habits. These aren't necessarily going to impact this stuff that's on this slide. These things are more impacted by one-on-one work or group work with a mental health professional. However, that does you might not want to go to therapy right now. Maybe it's not accessible to you, and that's okay, right? So we can still have some practical strategies that we can use in our day-to-day that can help us with the symptoms of chronic busyness, right? That can help us reclaim some of that time back. So the first thing I'm going to go into is one of my favorite things. This was when I learned about it last year, almost a year and a half ago. It really changed my life, and I use it in my work and in my personal life. So we have, you might hear from a lot of people, organize yourself, make a to-do list, plan your day in the morning, right? And so we make these to-do lists, or we might have the 5-minute bullet journal or whatever. And the reality with lists like that is that they are kind of like static, and they just kind of go top to bottom, and you can't really identify what has more weight. So what really helps is understanding your to-do list. It's one thing to just make the to-do list. It's a whole different thing to understand it. And once we understand the difference between important tasks and not important tasks, or urgent tasks and non-urgent tasks, like once we understand that, then we can actually tackle our time better. Because a lot of times when we're going through our to-do list, we might be doing things that are not urgent and they're not important, yet we're taking time out to do them, right? So the Eisenhower matrix, you can make this on paper, just the way you see right here, or you can download an app. There's multiple apps for it that helps you like make your to-do list and then like kind of organize your tasks by priority. So the way that you can just start, if you wanted to start this tomorrow, is make a to-do list, weekly. Let's say every Sunday or every Monday, you sit down for 15 minutes with a nice cup of tea and you think about everything that you have to do over the next 7 days. Make your to-do list like top to bottom, and then slot them into 4 different categories. Just thinking about the next 7 days, which of those tasks are urgent and important? So in this quadrant will be your priority tasks. These are the things that you will accomplish in this week. And then think about the stuff that's not urgent, but it is important. And these are the things you will schedule doing because they're important. So this might be dry cleaning, ordering groceries, right? Anything that is not immediately urgent, but it is important, you would put in this quadrant and you would schedule it. Things that are urgent but not important are the things you want to delegate. So here you want to ask for help. One of the reasons we get stuck in a lot of chronic busyness and toxic productivity is because we're not comfortable asking for help. So the things that fall under urgent and not important in this quadrant, you delegate, you ask for help, right? You ask your family, your friends, partner, coworker, neighbors, whoever. But think about it, think about your network and get creative, right? And finally, there's a lot of stuff on our list that's it's not urgent, nor is it important, but somehow it's just weighing on us and we're carrying that weight of the task with us. And these are the kind of tasks that burn us out, that bring us down, right? So every week, if you kind of think about this, it will be really helpful in making sure that you're putting your time where you need to, and you're not worrying about or putting brain space to things that you don't really need to, right? You can ask for help, or you can just completely take that task off your list. The second one I'm going to talk about is the Pomodoro Method. And this applies to, work-related things and personal life things as well. So for example, if, organizing laundry is annoying for you, like you can actually use this method as well. So research has shown that short bursts of focus are better than working for longer sessions. The Pomodoro really is any task that you've decided to do. Set a timer for 20 or 25 minutes, and then you have to work undisturbed. This also helps us focus, especially in this attention deprived economy that we live in right now, where our phones are constantly buzzing, we're getting desktop notifications, someone is always asking us a question. So working undisturbed for 20 minutes, you can actually really focus. That's an average length of your cognitive focus. And then you have to take a 5-minute break when the timer goes off. And you have to absolutely take a break because you're trying to socialize and normalize the idea of taking breaks while you're working. And then you just repeat that for another 20 minutes and you keep going until you're done your task, right? This is a really good way to get started on something that you want to do and also to kind of have short bursts of focus. Another pro tip here on the side is the 2-minute rule. Is if something can be done within 2 to 5 minutes, just do it right then and there. And then you don't have to worry about it kind of weighing on your to-do list. Finally, I'm encouraging you all to really reframe your relationship to resting. One of the reasons we feel burnt out and we're just in toxic productivity is because we view rest as a waste of time. This is where you're feeling anxious if you don't have anything to do, or you feel guilty, or you feel like you should be using your time in a better way. So once a week, have a set time when you do nothing that is productivity related. That could be just taking an aimless walk, sitting and just relaxing, watching TV, and not really focused on doing any work. Another way to reframe rest is to schedule small breaks throughout your day. I would encourage you to even put it in your calendar, like 1 p.m., 10-minute break. And then, start a rest ritual, which is do something once a day that is very restorative for you, and avoid technology at least for a bulk of your time during the day. So we are at time. So I think this last one is really about how you say no and how you get comfortable with saying no. I'm quickly going to talk through it. If someone is asking you for something and you're at capacity, start off with appreciating the request, thank them for thinking of you, and then ask for time. Always say, hey, can I get back to you? Because that will give you some time to gather your thoughts, especially for the people pleasers on here. That is really stressful to say no real time, right? So ask for time, and then you can decline saying, I'm not able to do this. Thank you for asking me. And if you feel like you can offer an alternative or another way to help them, like, can we do this another day? Can somebody else help you? This person might be better suited for this, right? Letting them know that you're interested in helping them, but you're just not able to do that. So I know I just kind of like went through that really, really fast, and we're really on time. So Maria, if you wanted me to answer a question, I'm happy to do it quickly.
Sure. Thank you so much. That was really, really insightful. I myself have actually used the Eisenhower matrix, so I was glad to see that pop up. And I've known people that do the Pomodoro effect.
Yeah,
We do have 3 questions in the chat.
sure.
I don't know if we'll have time to do all of them, but the first is, how can I simplify my expectations but still gain the benefits of managing my time during times of mental health crisis? For me, it's premenstrually, when I experience brain fog, depression, and lethargy that's different from my usual self.
Interesting. So I think the thing that I would recommend here is, if you know that these are the symptoms you experience, try to plan your time before you experience the symptoms. So having a plan beforehand, so you don't have to do it when you're having brain fog, or when you're feeling kind of down. So having a plan prior to anticipating it will be a better way, so that you already have something you can fall back on.
That's great. What coping skills can you provide for neurodivergent people who struggle with time management?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And unfortunately, I'm not trained very well in that area. But, if you message me, I can direct you to some resources that would be better, to speak on this.
And then I believe, let's see, what are suggestions for managing living with chronic illness?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And, I'll quickly say a few things about that. Is, self-awareness is really important. So knowing what your symptoms are, what triggers it, and, how you feel, really exploring how this shows up in your life is the first step. And then knowing that, okay, this is how I experience things, these are the things that happen to me, finding solutions and strategies that work with you, not against you. So, if you have chronic migraines, having a self-care plan ready for when you will have migraines, having some scripts ready for declining invitations that are coming if you're gonna, you're having migraine, having accommodation at work, like planning ahead and being prepared, is one way to kind of manage your time when you are experiencing or kind of living through a chronic illness. It's a very quick answer to a much bigger conversation.
Yeah. And like we said, we encourage to continue this discourse via Whova. You can reach out to Israa and send her messages. We can also continue the chat on Whova. I see some different comments in there. But thank you so much, Israa, for your input on this topic. I feel like, especially in being busy all the time, we really need to kind of conceptualize how we can make it work without burning ourselves out.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. And like I said in the beginning, if you have any more questions, you can reach out to me on Whova, but you can also reach out to me on my Instagram page. I'm definitely very active there, and I love chatting with people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.